What's going on today, guys? Beautiful, and I mean beautiful Sunday morning here in West Virginia. Noah and I are on a quick trip into Best Buy. And before I get started on the actual topic of today's video, happy Mother's Day. At least that's when I'm filming this. I'm sure it's going up weeks later. And considering only 4.3% of my subscribers are women, and probably not all of them are even mothers, happy Mother's Day to like the one or two of you that are watching, and obviously happy belated. Anyway, Noah and I are on our way into Best Buy. I need another GoPro battery for my Hero 5. I've misplaced one, and the other two I bought are now obsolete because GoPro did a firmware update and basically made batteries proprietary, though apparently you can now get batteries that'll work again. I don't care. I'm just going to spend the extra few bucks and get the GoPro battery. Alright, so ever since I kind of left the FJR community, I still have my FJR, and converted over to the KTM 1290 Super Adventure, for months now I've been receiving emails and messages and YouTube comments from people that are wanting me, you know, or at least saying, hey, I hope you keep us up to date on the maintenance and any problems and stuff you have on your bike. So with me just getting ready to flip over 5,000 miles, expected to have damn near 20 on it by the end of this riding season, I wanted to give you guys an update on the Super Adventure and what I've had to do to it so far. So obviously all bikes have a break-in. On this one it was a 620 mile break-in, so we did an oil change at that point with a filter, and then basically just checked things. There wasn't a whole lot to do. Since that point in time, at that oil change, I did mineral oil. I have since switched over to synthetic oil. I did that probably another 3,000 miles later, so maybe 3,500 miles or so. And that's really been about it, aside from having to lube the chain. I haven't even had to adjust the chain yet, though I'm just about at the end of the free play limit. So maybe look for a video on that pretty soon about how to adjust the chain on this thing, which is super simple. The Continental tires that came on it are wearing very, very well. They're not gonna last for my big trip out west this year, because we're planning on covering over 6,000 miles in 2 weeks. So I'll definitely have to put a new set on before then. But I'm pretty impressed with the wear on them. They bite well. I'm not planning on doing a whole lot of off-roading, so they really suit my purposes. They're good for some dirt roads, a little bit of gravel, and pavement, which is where I'm riding most of the time. So issues I've had with the bike, I just had one this morning, but it was my fault, not the bike's fault. But I've only had two issues up to this point. Issue number one, the fuel gauge at about 2,000 miles stuck on me, and I finished out my trip. I don't know if you guys saw that video or not, but that was the video that I rode up to New Jersey and Delaware and stuff, and it actually stuck on that trip. So I just used the trip odometer to figure out, you know, how far I could go between fill-ups. So it was obviously a warranty claim. Stopped off at Ride on Moto. Mike switched out the little fuel gauge, or whatever you want to. It's not the gauge, but the little ball float in there. It was about a 10-minute job. It required to take a piece of plastic off over here. You got instant access to it there in the tank. I think it was something like 4 bolts or screws and bolts we had to remove to get to it. About a 10-minute job. Popped the new one in. Everything has been good. You know, knock on wood, the last 3,000 miles. Haven't had any other issues out of the fuel gauge. The only other issue I had is, you know, Noah and I went to start this thing up this morning and the battery was dead. That was my fault because I left my GPS on, which I do have not hot wired, but it's a constant wire, or constant power to it, the way I've got it wired up. I thought I had turned it off. The screen was blank, but it wasn't turned off. So when I saw I only had 10 volts to the battery, we just jump started it and everything was good to go. So knock wood, there's the only two issues I've had so far. But like I said, I got a lot more miles to ride yet this year, and I will let you guys know if I have any other issues out of the bike. Some other guys have asked me about the modifications I've done to the bike. It really hasn't been much so far, and I think I've made videos on most of them. I guess technically the first thing we did is I had the factory top case put on the back, as well as the backrest. For those of you guys that aren't in the US market, in the United States, the 1290 Super Adventure comes stock with saddlebags, and they're the, you know, plastic aluminum things or whatever. I know a lot of guys don't like them. I made a review video because I do mainly on-road riding. I'm totally fine with them. I know they made some updates to them to fix a couple of things, and mine had the updates done before I got them. But so I do have the saddlebags and the top case, which, you know, for touring purposes are awesome. Even though Kristen and I, up until the point of this video, have only done one overnight trip on them. But like I said, we got a big one coming up later this year. Other modification I did, obviously I mentioned the GPS earlier. I went with the SW Motec mount for my Garmin 590 LM. Did an install video on that. Love that GPS mount. You can sort of see it in front of me right now. I don't have the Garmin on, but you can see the mount. I put the factory KTM skid plate on the bottom, even though I don't plan to do a whole lot of off-road riding. Two things: one, it makes me feel a little bit better to know it's there should I go off-road, and two, it just kind of completes the look of the bike. I think it looks pretty cool. The one downside is it makes changing the oil a bit more of a pain in the ass because you got to remove the skid plate. I mean, I guess, yeah, you do have to remove the skid plate. I don't think there's any way around it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the front drain bolt out. And then I think the last modification I've done on it is the IMS foot pegs that I put on. Big thanks again to the guys up at Ride on Moto and IMS for providing me with those. Those were free of charge, and I have kept them on the bike because they're pretty cool. When it comes to upcoming mods, you know, there's really not a whole lot I'm planning on. At first I thought about doing the Rottweiler airbox, and I still may do that. We'll see when the time comes. You know, I know a lot of guys have put aftermarket exhausts on. They sound cool. You know, it's a 160 horsepower bike. I kind of look at an aftermarket, you know, pipe, if it's $600, $800, $1,000, as, you know, how many nights stay and how long can I travel for on that money. So I've got nothing against the aftermarket exhaust. It's just not something I'm looking at right now. That said, I was exchanging some emails with Cape Voice. I don't know if you guys follow him or not on Facebook. We're messaging back and forth, and he went with the Cyclops LED headlight upgrade and sent me some video and some photos of that, and that thing looks pretty cool, and the price is right for that. I want to say it retails for right around 150 bucks, so I may consider doing that because the high-low beam on this thing is halogen. It does have an LED ring around it, so being able to update it to all LED, definitely, even though I don't ride at night much, it's still going to improve visibility during the day of people being able to see me on the bike. And if I decide to do another iron butt this year, you definitely have to ride at night for those, so it'll make me feel a little bit better, a little more comfortable, and a lot better visibility. I guess the only other problem we had with the bike that I didn't mention earlier was there was a recall for the possibility of your ABS wire getting frayed. I did a video on that. That required 2 minutes of your time and a zip tie, so not a major inconvenience in any way. One other, I guess you could call upgrade, I messaged one of the guys I follow on Instagram. He had a really clean looking front windscreen. I have nothing against this one. It actually functions very, very well. But from an aesthetic standpoint, it's not the prettiest. But he sent me some information on it, and I haven't had a chance to look it up yet. So, I mean, maybe that's a possibility in the future. But otherwise, don't look for a whole lot of modifications on this bike. I like it as it is, and I'm planning on just racking up a ton of miles and using that money for fuel and tires and 3-star hotels. Maybe 2-star. Depends on what my budget is. So anyway, for those of you that were asking or that were interested, that is my 5,000 mile check-in on my 2016 KTM 1290 Super Adventure. I don't know if I'll do another one at 10,000 or 15,000 or maybe at the end of this riding season, but as maintenance is required, I'll probably shoot some how-to videos of those things along the way. And of course, any modifications I make to it, I'll share those with you guys on the channel as well before the next quote-unquote update video. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, I look forward to you being one. If you have any other questions or comments, let me know in the comment section below. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.